Bangladesh's ousted Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina traumatic personal history has come full circle, near almost 50 years after her father, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the founder of Bangladesh, was massacred along with most of her family in a military coup in 1975. Then she was abroad and had to go into exile in India. At 76, she is once again in exile, this time it would appear without any likelihood of returning. As the country of 170 million people created by India in 1971 battles grave uncertainty in the aftermath, even while celebrating her departure, implications for India are serious and many. Among the biggest worries for New Delhi is whether Bangladesh would swing into China's orbit the way its once fraternal twin, Pakistan, has done. Hasina, who was exceptionally friendly towards India for the last 15 years, leaves in her wake some profound worries for New Delhi. Mayank Chhaya Report spoke to senior journalist, writer and columnist Mahendra Ved, who was once based in Bangladesh, to understand what lies ahead. Mahendra Ved. Welcome to Mayank Chhaya Reports. Mahendra, it's a great pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
I'm sure you're aware that for Sheikh Hasina, its personal traumatic history coming full circle after nearly 50 years. In 1975, her father and almost her entire family was massacred, and she was abroad then, and then she went into exile in India. And once
Yeah.
again, she is in exile. How do you look at the crisis in Bangladesh?
Well, it is really, that was a different circumstances. Today she is in Delhi on a different situation altogether. The latest we hear is that she is trying to for asylum to United Kingdom, and they have sort of put off the whole thing, saying that you cannot you cannot arrive in UK and then seek asylum. For you should go to the safest place close by, which happens to be India.
Right.
And I think there is some problem with the British end. There is also a report that she is trying Finland or Belgium, but we don't have any final thing. And she's not exactly unwelcome in Delhi, but her destination is Europe, where her relations are, and she's not able to reach there.
Do you think that for all practical purposes, her career is over? She's 76. She has created so much rage in Bangladesh. She has basically run away from there. What does she do now?
Well, I suppose she lives with her family and spends the rest of her life. That is what, because her son has already said that she will not return to politics. Now,
Okay.
he's the only son, and coming from him, I guess he's based in US. Well, that would be probably the family council that keep out of politics. What is important is that the political legacy that started with her father way back in the 50s, if you say the language movement of Bangladesh. Of course, he was one of the leaders, and then you had the 6-point program in the 66, and then you had the entire freedom movement where he was jailed and taken to Pakistan. Somehow he survived, came back as leader of the nation, was the president and the prime minister. At the end, he was unfortunately assassinated. Uh, and now his daughter has seen uh, 4 terms. Fifth term she was on, and now the situation is that she has been forced to resign and fly out.
For now, the country seems leaderless, even though they have freed Khaleda Zia, the former prime minister. Uh, at least for the foreseeable future, you have General Waqaruzzaman, the army chief in charge.
Khaleda Zia would be, if at all, a passive leader in the sense she is also ailing. She is a year older than Sheikh Hasina,
Right.
and she has been arthritis and a whole lot of other problems she's had. And her complaint was that Hasina did not allow her proper treatment. But that we have no way of finding yes or no to that. But she would be the symbolic leader, just the way she started her career after her husband was assassinated in 81. President Ziaur Rahman, I'm talking of. So
Right.
she began as as a symbolic leader and then emerged as a politician. She won the election once, twice. So it's a different ball game today. But leaving out Khaleda Zia, there is probably nobody who can take charge.
But that would mean that at least for the foreseeable future, the Army Chief General Waqaruzzaman will stay at the helm.
Yes, he seems to be the man in charge today, and he is talked of uh, asking people to keep faith in the army, etc. And also, uh, he is going to have an interim government. But the way past record has been such, and the way things occur when the military intervenes, is that military calls the shots.
But do you see him as, I mean, the reports that I read here is that he's often seen as someone who has pro Beijing proclivities. What is your sense of him and his worldview?
The general, well, he has been, whatever you get to see, he is a career soldier, infantryman. The interesting part that emerged only now in the last 24 hours is that he is a distant relation of the Hasina. His wife, he is married to the daughter of former army chief, General Mustafizur Rahman,
I
who
see.
had worked, who was army chief during Hasina's time, 97, 98, around that time. And uh, Mrs. Zaman and Sheikh Hasina are distant cousins.
I see.
So in a way, it's somebody Hasina came to trust, probably because he is related to her, and probably because, and he had just taken over in June as the army chief. So obviously there was an element of trust. I mean, something that you see happening across the subcontinent in Pakistan. The
Right.
politician trusts the general, and then at some stage the general casts aside the politician. From
Right.
Ayub down to Musharraf or General Bajwa. But that's a different story. We can continue the discussion on Bangladesh.
What is it about these two countries on either side of India that they are so prone to such extraordinary goings on so frequently?
See, the military culture in what was Pakistan has always been strong. The Punjab, the northwest frontier, it was always strong. Bangladesh had a different culture, and that's one of the reasons Bangladesh separated. But yes, or you go a little further to the east, Myanmar has had any number of generals ruling. In fact, more generals have ruled Myanmar than the civilians. So it is there. It's part of the you know society, polity there.
Right.
Somehow in India we have escaped it.
Yeah.
We don't. We have a different political system.
What is your sense about the role that the Islamists, with the help of Pakistan's ISI, may have played, at least behind the scenes? Even though it began as a students' protest, but I'm sure
Well,
there was something going on behind the scenes as well.
well, something has gone on all the time. ISI never left Bangladesh. It worked through people within the army, in the madrasas, in the social circles, and the burgeoning uh, business class, the middle class that has become so aspirational that if they do not find a leader acceptable, they can discard it. This is partly the this partly shows in the protests the way her house has been burgled, the way has been
Right.
attacked, and where things have been furniture has been taken over, even fish has been taken away from her kitchen. I mean, those things that leave us out the mass frenzy. It is an indicator of people discarding a leader, and from what reports you get, it's bloodless in the sense that nobody shed tears about Hasina going. The same had happened when Mujib had gone. So
What are
this is a part of the change that people get used to it. They get stunned. Slowly, people get to life moves on.
what are the implications for India? Because India has obviously serious problems with the instability in Bangladesh now.
Well, for India, problems are very many. For 15 years, India got used to a friendly person who never lost an opportunity to thank India and the Indian leadership for helping them in the 71 war and freedom. That got used to it, and probably there was no second alternate leadership. I I'm not sure if there was any serious thinking about finding a leader other than Hasina. So to that extent, you are in a bit of a situation, a bad situation. On the ground, there are going to be lots of problems because uh, you have a 4,300-kilometer border, and border management between any two neighbors is very, very serious. There has been smuggling of goods, smuggling of cattle, smuggling of humans, people moving around, drugs. And in adverse time when Khaleda Zia was president, prime minister, even arms. So those things have happened. And as you know, Bangladesh, along with India, is part of that crescent where
Right.
the drug movement takes place. So all that now, you had a friendly government on the both sides. They worked on it. Now we have a government. You have a government in Bangladesh. You will have that will always remain suspicious. I'm reminded of the years immediately after Mujib was assassinated. There was total indifference, hostility to India because they took it, assumed that India had supported Mujib and anybody other than Mujib was not acceptable. Ziaur Rahman tried to create his own nationalism, which was independent of India. And people had lots of complaints about India, which otherwise they were played down. Now, that about talking of the current situation, you will have uh, the Ganga Water Treaty coming up for renewal very soon. And well, it was discussed during when Hasina met Prime Minister Modi that it would be worked out and there's various stages. It's not an easy treaty, and both sides would want more water. So that is one thing. Tista water. Now, there are 53 systems between in Bengal which both
Right.
the countries share. These two major systems are involved. Tista, Bangladesh has been clamoring for a very long time. It has not worked, partly because West Bengal opposes it. Now, the Chinese wanted to step in, and India was justifiably finicky about it because that area is just 23 kilometers broad
Right.
between in North Bengal, what is called Chicken's Neck.
Yeah.
And India is very finicky about Chinese coming in physically. The Chinese were prepared to invest, but Hasina came to India and she worked out things, and India accepted all those offers, which would include cleaning up the river, dredging of the river, you know, creating enough situation where more water flow is there, which can be shared. Now, all those things, after all that, when she went to Beijing, Beijing cold shouldered her according to all the reports. They did not like the idea of her going to India first. And now, of course, in the new situation, how Beijing will look at Bangladesh, how they will want investment. Now, these are things, this is an uh, wide open situation where there are going to be problems. So we have taken border, we have taken water system, and diplomatically, there are also going to be problems. Now, about the water treaty of Ganga, if you recall in the 90s, uh, Begum Khaleda Zia's government always went to United Nations and in their speech at the UN General Assembly, India's uncooperative approach on Ganga water and Farakka barrage, all that
Right.
was raised year after year, if you recall.
Right.
So all those things will come. Now you will have when the treaty comes from renewal, which is very soon, uh, these problems will again get exacerbated.
But do you see this as a failure of the External Affairs Ministry to anticipate such a dramatic turn of events in Bangladesh?
Well, if there were indications, there is no way to find out. In fact, Hasina was in Delhi talking to the top Indian leadership twice.
Right.
She came June end and she came in July again. Now
Absolutely.
we have no way to find out if she discussed any of the things, if she gave any indication, or if Indians cautioned her what kind of trouble she could be facing. We have no idea actually. I mean, just the way Sheikh Mujib, I mean, he was specifically warned that there was a threat to his life. He ignored it. Now, if this was such a thing was discussed with Hasina, we do not know. If how she reacted, if at all, we do not know.
I see. Now, to conclude, Mahendra, how do you think India should play it at this stage? They don't have a choice other than working with whoever takes over for the time being. And if that, I mean, if it is the army chief, they'll have to
Yes.
live with him. What do you think India can do at this stage?
Well, India has dealt with army chiefs in Pakistan, also
Right,
with Ziaur Rahman in Bangladesh, or Arshad, General Arshad. So there is no option but to deal with whoever is in power, number one. Number two, uh, there will be pinpricks. And that element of mistrust is bound to be there. And in the third in the third fora and elsewhere also, these issues are going to get exacerbated. But India cannot ignore a smaller neighbor. What will happen is that whatever India says or does, much of the world will say, "Oh, you are the big brother, you are the big country, you should be more giving." Those things will there, and America and Bangladesh can always raise this, small country syndrome, small country sympathy. That will
right,
always be there. And that size you cannot miss out. You cannot wish away.
right.
So those sort of problems will be there. Let's see how things work out.
And before I let you go, one last thing: how do you think the U.S. and China would treat it in terms of a strategic playground that Bangladesh may become?
Well, actually, well, another way of looking at it is Pakistan and China. That alliance is always there. Both tend to benefit in the new situation. The United States situation, I'm unable to understand why they were so critical of Hasina. I mean, in the name of democracy.
Right,
And they have been lobbying for uh, Muhammad Yunus, the Nobel laureate. And it's a long story why Muhammad Yunus wasn't liked by Hasina. He was also put in jail at one time.
right,
And he was on TV yesterday, and he was, well, I use the word exulting. He was exulting at the changes. He was extremely critical of Sheikh Hasina, as it is to be expected. And he was still looking forward, but he had no clear idea of what was coming. And he had nothing to offer in that sense.
One subject that we didn't touch on was the rise of Islamist forces. Uh, uh, you have talked about it. Uh, how do you look at do you think it could become another Pakistan in that sense?
Well, comparisons are odious, but even in best of days during East Pakistan days and later when Begum Zia was in power in Bangladesh, uh, uh, these Islamist groups, the madrasas, and the tribals from northeast, that is the Assam and Nagas and Mizos, they were active. Their camps were run on the border with within Bangladesh. Those sort of things can start again. What
I see.
Hasina undid, what all she helped with Pakistan to India, it can resume again. And there is always a state of denial, like what we are seeing in across the subcontinent in Kashmir.
Right.
So these problems are bound to be there, and this is going to have very serious impact on the whole of east and northeast of India. There's no doubt about that.